Pew, 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 pew.
All right, back to regular programming. The hashtag Grammys popped up on my timeline after the Recording Academy released the nominations for 2021. But before we give you all the tea, we need to congratulate homeboy Trevor Noah, who's going to be at the helm of the 63rd Annual Music Award.
So Trevor texted me back and he said, thanks guys for the congratulations.
Because you know that I'm an
He's glad he's made you
award-nominated
proud.
musician, and you're making me shout.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was saying he's at the helm of the 63rd Grammy Awards now. Clap then. Yay!
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm good.
My play thinks he's going to get a tender to somehow land up doing the Grammys himself. Anyway, leading this year's nominations is Beyonce with 9 nods. That's followed by Taylor Swift and Dua Lipa with 6 nominations each. Of course, there was disappointment, especially for The Weeknd, who was completely snubbed despite having the biggest selling album of 2020. He took to the socials with this tweet. The Grammys remain corrupt, he says. You owe me, my fans, and the industry transparency.
Ouija, 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 woo. So this is literally what Twitter was created for, because then his timeline was flooded with loads of messages of love and support.
Aww.
And his tweets came running. Mish Bang Tan says, it makes no sense. You are the artist of the year by every definition and criteria, critical and commercial. One of the most successful songs and albums of ever. Inspired countless artists today with your sound.
Mm-hmm.
That's so sweet.
That's sweet.
Julia then dropped this one. The Grammys have been a circle jerk for a while now.
Yo,
it's about connections. Follow gets nominated and you know who's well connected. Thankfully, it's not the Grammys that determine the worth of music. Bob Marley and Queen, etc. never got a Grammy.
Queen!
Yeah. Isn't that shocking?
Because Queen, I can dim the lights. That's one of my favorite bands.
Like so many.
Ooh, love, can me tell you that? Ooh.
I only sing Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay,
sorry.
so anyway, on the topic of artists who didn't receive a Grammy, biggest snubs?
Oh, it has to be when Beyonce lost out to Beck.
Who's Beck?
Is a band.
It's a
musician in the UK.
And very talented, fantastic, but not
I'm
Beyonce.
a loser, baby.
That is one ceremony Kanye should have interrupted.
Why
You?
don't you kill
For me, it was Justin Bieber. When Justin Bieber lost to that girl from Benoni, Esperanza Spalding.
Is that
Please
even a name?
respect Esperanza Spalding.
Sounds like a name
She
from
is
boxing.
very talented. She's an amazing
Esperanza.
artist.
I think when U2 didn't win Best Song of the Year for I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For because they lost to Somewhere Out.
That's a beautiful song.
You know, when you sing like that, Alma, I feel you so much. All right, well, speaking of Grammys, the next story popped up on my timeline after the hashtag Elaine was seen in a recording studio in
The
Los
hashtag
Angeles.
or
Rather
Elaine?
Elaine, rather. That hashtag Elaine popped up. And Elaine was seen in a recording studio in LA, Los Angeles, darling, with Grammy-nominated DJ and legendary producer Tkay. Now, the South African songstress recently signed with Columbia Records, a move that no doubt catapulted her to star status. And Tweeps were very quick to congratulate her and even going as far as to say, guys, Elaine is gone. All right? When clarity is this clear to see, she wrote it there, there's no questioning how far she'll go. I want to know from you guys, who is that star, that South African star, as soon as you met them or saw them, you're like, this one.
Okay.
Or South African artist, as soon as you saw them, you're like, this one's going to shine, this
There's
one's
two
going to
for
become
me.
a star. Yeah?
It was Maple. When I saw Maple, I was just like...
talk about yourself the whole time.
Then it was Nasty C. I remember hearing Nasty C for the very first time,
Yeah.
and I thought the game has changed. I was like, there is something that we can import, and that is something that if there was a World Cup of hip-hop, would
cool.
be in there.
All right. For me, it was youngster CPT. He is obviously still on the ascent, but the guy is talented, and I love the way he works.
I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I can't believe the Antwoord happened, but my thing is that the first time I saw, so when Siya Kolisi, no one had ever picked him as a captain for anything, né? And then before anyone had ever taken notice, they made him the captain of the Stormers. And in his first post-match interview, those post-match interviews where the guys go, back to the drawing board, we're sorry we lost this game, we didn't want to disappoint
the usual stock phrases.
Siya, as soon as he was asked to reflect on the outcome his team lost, he turned to the fans directly in the stands at Newlands and said, I just want to tell everyone who spent money to come out here tonight and watch us, we are so sorry. We are heartbroken at this loss. We are going to do better for you. And I thought, this guy...
And
that
Mark, can I
EQ
tell
and
you
showmanship,
something? South African men, if you are out there, if you underperform in any section of the house, just look at your partner in the eye and say, I am very sorry that you had to come out for this, and I will do better next time.
Mablet, don't drag people. Don't drag my friends. Eh? I'm watching you. Okay, so now on to more serious topics.
Yeah.
In a New York Times essay, the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, penned a moving piece today entitled The Losses We Share. Now, she spoke about the losses we share in 2020 due to COVID, but also about the loss of what would have been her and Prince Harry's second child. Yes. She had a miscarriage in July. And she wrote, I knew as I clutched my firstborn child that I was losing my second. Meghan went on to say, she went to the hospital with Prince Harry where he watched his heart break at the news.
Yeah, and of course, the Duchess of Sussex is not the only public figure, right, to come out and share that story of loss. We know that Chrissy Teigen and John Legend also shared very publicly the loss of their baby that they called Jack.
Beyonce also shared it as
exactly.
well.
So, I mean, it's so heartbreaking when people go through this, but it's lovely work that I think these guys are doing by opening up the conversation because we know it's difficult to be grieving a life that nobody else saw, right? So in Meghan Markle's case, or the Duchess's case, she carried the baby or Chrissy's case, she carried the baby for 5 months, passed away, and they said, you leave the hospital and you don't come home holding anything, you know?
And you already bought beds and everything and toys. It's a lot.
But I think it's also really cool and important that October is Child Loss and Pregnancy Loss Month. So what it does is validate all those feelings of grief. Yes, you didn't come home from the hospital with a baby, but your grief is valid. Really cool campaigns, I think. So we keep it moving with the Minister and the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Maite Nkwana Mashabane.
I'm so glad I didn't have to say that again.
She launched a 16 Days of Activism Against Violence Towards Women and Children campaign. The theme was Women's Economic Justice for a Non-Violent and Non-Sexist South Africa. Minister Nkwana Mashabane highlighted that the country is facing a second pandemic of gender-based violence and femicide, which we all know. Yeah.
So the hashtag 16 days and stop GBV is trending. And then Neil Nkulana, no, not Neil, this is Nelly, sorry, Nelly Nkulana tweeted, kicking off hashtag 16 days of activism 2020 with an interview with Mbongeni Ngema shows how much of a farce this campaign is. To other producers and media people, please, please don't give known abusers a platform. Take a look at the video if you haven't seen it yet. This is important.
I've been with so many women in my life. I am sorry for what I've done. That is why I'm coming up. That is why I am putting myself in the forefront of this movement to say that, you know what, it is not too late for all men.
So firstly, I think he needs to go Google centering yourself. But I think the other question, the main thing that I want to know here, we often talk about these issues and say we want men to speak to other men and address gender-based violence in their own ranks. What is wrong with this man speaking in this way?
In many ways, I think we want to see and proof, we want proof of the fact that he's made amends to the women that he's hurt, right? We read his ex-wife's book, and the things that happened in that marriage were scary. So show that you've atoned, made amends, number one, but you also don't place yourself as an abuser or a known abuser. you don't put yourself at the forefront of a movement, and you don't call other men to. It's kind of like do the inside work on yourself, and don't center yourself, please. I think that's what triggered a lot of people, actually.
And speaking of triggering a lot of people, I saw the tweets that were coming through, and people were worried, Uti, is he doing this because he's genuine about it or because he's losing money?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I just think for Ubabumbongeni at this time, I don't think that this is the time for him to come to the forefront or come out as the face of this entire movement.
The self-appointed
You know
face.
what I'm saying? So I just think it was unfortunate for him to come forward at this particular time. But the thing is, I'm glad that he is trying to change and is admitting what he did, you know. So for me, that's a step in the right direction.
Okay, well, after the break, we wrap up this week's conversation on gender bending, and we'll be joined by a mixed blouse as well as a Tkay Kaula straight after the break. You don't want to miss it.
Like you know hip hop, come on.
I'm a lady. As we wrap up our conversation on the gender revolution in light of that Harry Styles Vogue cover, tonight we're exploring the varied ways that millennials use to embrace that gender identity and expression. And our guests tonight are challenging the narrative by living their truth. And I want to say welcome to Trending SA, Tkay Kaula and Mixed Blouse.
Thank you.
So good to have you guys here.
It's
Mixed Blouse. But you know, guys, let's start by, and you've obviously with the premise of this, you understand the Harry Styles Vogue cover. But let's talk about the fact that gender roles and, you know, the performativeness of displaying who and what you're told you are in society. It's something that we all conform to. But I'm keen to find out what informed your understanding of gender and your identity, right? Your gender identity growing up. And I'm going to start with you, Tkay.
Sure. Hi guys, welcome. Welcome to my YouTube channel. We're the Red Cups. Thank you so much for having me. Sure. For me, my journey into discovering myself and my identity and my sexuality has been coming from a place of rebellious, because I've been a rebel all my life. I've been like the black sheep of the family. So So I've never wanted to do anything that I was told to do, because I believed in my rights, and I always just pushed through until that worked out for me.
Yeah, and you, Mix?
For me, it was just basically never fitting in.
Yeah.
You know, you grow up, you're a boy, so you have to play with the boys.
Yeah.
But you just don't feel at home playing with the boys. And then at some point I thought, okay, let me play with the girls, but I just wouldn't fit in there either.
Sure.
So there was always this idea at the back of my head that I am somewhere in between. And it wasn't until, you know, the whole social media revolution that I started seeing other people talking about feeling the same way, that I was like, actually, let me investigate this a little bit more.
And take us down that journey. Like, what does that journey look like? You know, you've pointed to the fact that, you know, this revolution opened your eyes to it. And the investigation looked like what? Reading, talking?
So a lot of it was people just blogging about their own experiences with gender. And I think at the time, there was a lot of movement, especially like in the Western world, where universities were allowing people to use different pronouns.
Sure.
You know, and all of that. So I was reading a lot of that material. But I think mostly what struck me is how big a community it is globally.
Yeah.
So that connection with people online is what led me to sort of understanding my experience, because I didn't understand it before. I just didn't understand why I wasn't fitting in.
That's
And Mina, I want to pose a question to you, Tkay. When somebody looks at you, they see this androgynous energy. you know. But what I want to know is that they would think would you've completely detached yourself from your feminine side.
Yeah.
How do you connect with your feminine side?
I'm definitely connected to my feminine side. I love being a woman, you know, and I love women. So yes, I dress in a sense that someone will say I'm very masculine, and I love that, and I wear it so beautifully. But I'm so in touch with my feminine side.
I love that. I wear it so beautifully. Affirm yourself, girl.
I do. and I'm really glad that I'm able to balance the two, you know, and finding the different nuances in different clothing and in different ways of just carrying yourself in rooms and just expressing yourself in any way that you want to, and feeling like nobody can actually box you and tell you what to do, you know? Yeah, so for me, it's always been a thing of you're female and you love being female, so dress like that if you want to. But you like this masculine side, dress like that if you want to. Maybe measure the two, you know, and I'm able to measure the two sometimes.
Yeah.
You do it very well.
Thank you.
Very, very well. And Mix, you know, to the point of your own journey, I'm keen to find out how your gender identity and your sexual identity intersect. You know, how we're able to reconcile the two and reach a point where you were saying, this is who I am.
This is who I am. So I differentiate between gender and sexuality. So my gender is non-binary, but that doesn't take away from the fact that I was born with a male biology.
Yes.
So I'm still male, which means I am gay, you know what I mean? So for me, there's no confusion there. I know a lot of people are confused by it, but I'm not confused about it. It's two different things. Gender and sexuality are not the same thing.
They're not. Then they need to be separated.
You know, when we come back, we're going to continue this discussion because I've got so many questions. Really loving the conversation. Stay with us. It is Tsa on 3. Short break. We continue talking to Tkay, Kaula and Mix Blouse. Welcome back to Tsa on 3. We're still talking gender bending and the gender revolution, more specifically, my bad. And joining us in studio still with us is Mix Blouse and Tkay, Kaula. And I just want to ask you this question on the back of where we left off the conversation. How do you navigate people who are ignorant about your specific gender identities, right? And how you show up in the world. Because people will naturally make assumptions either because of the cues that they get from how you look, but when you say, no, this is who I am, and someone just has either not come across this or just is puzzled or pushes back even.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that?
Do you want to start?
Let's start with you.
All right. I feel like as a human, you have what can I say? The right to teach. You know.
Sure.
Yeah. The onus is upon you. Even with racism, you know, it doesn't have to be homosexuality and homophobia. Even when a white person says something that's negative to the black people, you as a black person need to stand up with every black person who's not there in that room. So I, as a lesbian woman, if I'm faced with something like that, I'm able to confront it immediately. If you're gonna call me a he, and I'm gonna say sorry, but I'm a she, you know, and you're gonna continue to call me a he because you're trying to be condescending, then I'm gonna teach you. You know what I mean? It is our need that we need to educate the people that we come across who are ignorant and who want to put us down and oppress us and what not. You know.
Mix Blouse, are you also always looking for teachable moments, or is there a time and place?
I mean, I agree to a certain extent, but I also think it's such emotionally draining work. You know what I mean? So I think I choose moments where I can teach. Like you see from how a person treats you, if they're going to be receptive to the message. A lot of the time people just aren't. They just want to argue and try to prove that, I don't know, your gender doesn't exist, what you're doing is wrong or whatever it is. So more than anything, I try to protect my own peace. And, you know, if you're going to call me he or she, and I have insisted that I'm they, that's yours to deal with, man. You know, I'm gonna let it go.
No, I want to ask Muti, and please, I'm going to start with you. I want to ask, what are some of the most ridiculous stereotypes people have approached you with? Because they just didn't... because you are lesbian and you dress like that. What are the stereotypes that come forward?
I don't know, but I've had an incident where I went to a mall and they asked me not to go into the ladies' toilet. And I was like, come on, come on.
I'm so sorry.
What do they think you're going to do? And for you, Blouse?
It's a lot of catcalling.
Are you serious?
Catcalling.
Catcalling, yeah.
And then you're walking down the street and...
On an ordinary day, hey, baby.
Yes.
It's just like, okay, well, whatever.
Wow.
You do a lot of ignoring, hey.
For me, it's like I just don't want to be angry because I know if I go into that situation, my entire day is ruined. If I'm at a party, now I want to go home because I'm so angry.
And that's so weird because with me, I feel good when I am. I'm just like, yes, give me conversation.
There's clearly so many very different ways to be in the world, right? But I really like the fact that, you know, you take the time to correct where you can, and that works for you. For you makes you you need to protect your peace.
I need to protect my peace.
I think that is so important. And as you said, not everybody is receptive in that moment, and we know we also do live in a violent society. So
100%.
when it's not even safe for you to do so, by all means, check out and do the next
I
thing.
really understand what you go through because I literally every day at 6 o'clock I come here and I protect my peace.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Nimenzanu plela.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for joining us.
That's live.
This was absolutely amazing.
so much.
And thank you for siding with me in protecting my peace in this tumultuous.
In this what? Say that?
Tumultuous.
Situation.
That's all we have for you tonight. Join us again tomorrow at 6 p.m. right here on SABC3. Gite Papayini from your favorite Taxi King.
Yes.